Hello?
Yes, Mr. Carruthers,
Yes, sir. Good morning.
you have video?
Yes, sir. Let me see. You can't see me. Where do I need? Okay, hold on. There. Can you see me? Okay.
Right,
Can you-
audio?
Okay, now I can hear you.
Yes, okay, you're good. I'm waiting for Mr. White to connect. No audio.
Okay.
Now if you can unmute.
There we go. Okay, very good.
Okay, we've got both here. Okay, so we had the
Close the door.
inspection of the tent. Is that, was that completed?
Yes, sir. I picked up the tent and yeah, it's been inspected.
Okay, everything's all right?
No, it's pretty filthy and it had been sitting outside in a dirt yard and not in a storage facility for 5 years.
Mr. Carruthers, any response?
It had been in my warehouse, but it gets dirty in the warehouse.
Okay, so was it picked up inside or outside? I mean, how do we know it was outside?
No, I took it outside because I was going to move it to where he could get it with his trailer. But we
Okay,
had to load it with a forklift.
okay. Anything else anybody either side wants to state?
As I said, my contention is it was stored outside. I want to make sure that was very clear, with the exception perhaps of maybe one pallet. The rest was outside.
Okay,
All the poles were outside. Yes, they're stored outside. Huh?
All of the metal interior appeared to be outside.
Yeah, the metal was all outside.
Yes, it is all outside, including the electrical conduits.
okay. This was from, I'm looking at my notes, from January of 2016, correct?
Yes, sir. And I sent in pictures, by the way, Your Honor, exhibits of pictures when I picked it up.
Okay. I don't. These are
There
the,
you go.
okay,
That's the interior structural components of the tent that should not have been outside. For someone that's charging you storage fees, you went by the tent itself, which is filthy. That door, of course, was inside. I did show that door inside. There was another door that was stored outside. This was essentially a junkyard, Your Honor, where it was sat outside, including that door there, which includes mechanical aspects to it, was not inside.
I don't know what mechanical aspect that has.
The
That has an
doors,
exit sign that was
doors
busted
and hinges.
when we took it down.
Yeah, you can see the hinges. You can see the mechanics of what opens and closes the door on that exact same piece of picture there.
Yeah, you don't store that inside.
Okay, according to you, when someone's charging you storage fees, I don't presume that's anywhere I know of, particularly when they're showing you very expensive charges, that goes outside in essentially a junkyard.
They're not expensive. It was in my yard and it was being stored there.
You said it's not expensive?
It was safe. Nobody was going to take it. It was being stored. We can argue about that, but that's okay.
okay, my judgment's for $600. I'm charging $10 a month. So Mr. White, if you the judgment is, you got the tent, the judgment would be against you for $10 a month for a total of $600. Anything further?
Pardon me, Your Honor?
Anything further?
I think it's excessive. I will say this, that for Mr. Carruthers, he did help us in loading with his forklift, and I give him credit for that. That's the only thing I would give him credit for. And I thanked him and paid him $100 for helping me when we went to go pick it up. But I think what I would like to say is, number one, this should have never happened. He could have called me anytime and I would have picked up the tent. This was totally at his choosing to charge me retroactively. He was very uncooperative in terms of being able to communicate with him, including all the registered mails and the number of times I spent money to serve him. And it was like 4 or 5 times to get him served, that he resisted that. He knew where the tent was. He never would allow me to find out where the tent was. That was, I think, very deceitful on his part. And I think he was dishonest and deceitful to the court. If you look at all the expenses he concocted, they make no sense at all. He was not harmed. He did not have any expenses when he stored it in the junkyard of his backyard. And that's what I suspected, was it was his place the whole time and he didn't want me to know about it.
Okay, I'll take credit for the $100, so it's a balance of $500. Anything further?
Okay, Your Honor.
No.
Okay, I will prepare a judgment and email it to, we have emails for both of you, correct?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
I believe so.
Okay, thank you all. I'm going to end the meeting.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to pay the guy $500. Oh, yeah, I did drive home the point enough. See, I was surprised. The judge came up real quick. He was like, I'm gonna charge you $10 a month. Which doesn't sound too bad. And I said, I paid the guy, you know, and what I should have said is the value of the tent is diminished. And that's that was the key thing. I didn't hit home that point. If I hit that point home, I think I could have gotten out of the 500. Oh, yeah, these outrageous. Right, $12,000. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah, so 500 compared to that. Yeah. Just could rule a lot. Well, the thing was, hindsight, I probably would have paid him. I gave him $100, and that's what I said at the end. I gave him $100 for helping me load that stuff. And so he knocked that off the $600 he originally charged, so. So be it. You know, like I said, I felt like it should have been nothing, but I don't have time to fight it anymore. Write a $500 check and be done with it. And I should have said, hey, the value of the tent's gone way down. Geez, that was getting slammed.
Christian, are you saying that in the longer term, if they resolve this, they can actually emerge from this stronger? I hear your point. I think it's 15 million drivers. That's why we thought that this may be different than an Ant Group. But what makes you confident once again that this is going to be resolved in just 45 days? You see billions wiped off the market cap.
Look, I was wrong in 3 days, so like totally wrong in a year, right? But at this juncture, I split the message. Like, you know, yes, the net profit margin or the profit margin is 20%, but yes, we can only double that. So double the amount of revenue that we're done. They got 400 million active users, 15 million drivers. The numbers are there. The fundamentals are definitely there. The possible last quarter, granted, there was some kind of exception, but the investment gains that they were profitable, right? At least the core business. So numbers are there. Regulatory macro issues, look, it came out of the left field, right? No one that I think for the most part, the regulatory damage is going to
Well, the Red 10 file's done. Put that away. Don't have to mess with that anymore.
Yeah, the first question, I don't know. You asked me that could definitely be a macro black swan that no one really counts for. No, I think, look, in terms of GDP in
All right.
Kristen, regarding that Wall Street Journal report, as an investor, did you know that Chinese
Done, it's done.
were urging the company to push back?
One less thing on my plate.
No, in fact, I mean, some pieces of the news, the question you can respond is number one. They're smart bankers.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said. No, I haven't. I'll do that later. So. Okay. Like I said, I talked to Corey, and Corey said, you know, if you could get the thing back for $1,500. That's right. If you just get your thing back. Well, so I paid the guy another 220. So I came in last. And I got, that was the thing. I didn't. Well, I live with it. But I see your. I don't count it as a victory, but it's a tie. That's not a loss. But had I not taken him to court, I guarantee you it would have come out worse. Yeah. Yeah. $10 a month is what the judge figured it was worth for his storage.
Is that what he said?
Yeah. $10 a month. Yeah, I did. But he barely looked at him. He looked at him just right when I said to bring him up. But I said it was essentially an outdoor junkyard where it was stored. Oh, well, I had the tent inside. I go, no, not all the metal, all the electrical components, all that was outside. And the elements. Yeah, right. He admitted that. So like I said, but he, again, it's just, he's so deceptive, right?
Did he have the tent part, the fabric part inside?
He may have for a while, but it was filthy. It was dirty. It had dirt all
So
over.
it was outside.
Yeah.
Basically.
He said it was inside his warehouse, but it did get dirty. It does get dirty.
Dusty, I mean, there was like, there's enough dirt you could knock off that. That's the feeling. Big area. There's not much dirt.
I would have taken pictures of that.
There's that much dirt. Big brown. It's not even stuff. Yeah. It was big brown.
Yep. All right. Yeah, this market's getting, I don't know, I can't get any rally here. Let's see.
Like at Valley University, we know the world is pretty smart. We made FlexPack smart enough that you can finish the bachelor's degree in business you started in 18 months for $18,000. That's smart. Valley University, don't just learn smarter. Because that's what advisor shows up at your doorstep. You can't just turn it away. That's why it's first to share with university before they show up. Go to ready.gov/FlexPack to find out. Oh, there it is.
Five, he's an attractive setup for shares in the second half, because it's time to start buying again. Now, capital lowered its price target to 150 from on iPhone sales going forward. Shares are up around 7% this year. Different views here on how much higher the stock goes for the rest of the year. 6% or 21. The only three Dow stocks in the green, though, all tech.
Meanwhile, John, the retail investing boom is showing no signs of slowing down. Retail investors bought around $28 billion worth of stocks and ETFs in June, according to VantageStrat. That is a record monthly amount going back to 2014. So what does this mean for Robinhood, which just filed its S-1 to go public itself? For joining us now, Cambria Investment Management CIO, Matt Saber. Matt, good morning to you, and thanks for being with us. Now, obviously, Robinhood has been a big part of the retail trading boom, bringing a new cohort of investors to market, but you don't exactly agree with this method, what some call the gamification of trading, and its business model, famous for order flow.
Oh boy, Great to be here, guys. Yeah, I mean, look, Robinhood's business model is as old as time, going back 100 years. I'm always conflicted when it comes to Robinhood because they have onboarded tens of millions of people that wouldn't probably have been investing into the financial markets. The problem is, their stated mission is democratize finance, and that is a noble mission, but they do it through gambling and speculation, through gamification. It's kind of like, it's like McDonald's saying they're going to democratize food, right? You teach all the wrong lessons. If you're going to eat milkshakes and hamburgers and french fries every day, you're probably going to have high blood pressure and diabetes and learn all the wrong lessons. So if you view Robinhood and also any financial institution through this lens, okay, Robinhood in many ways, or a gaming company, then it's totally different. And in the financial world, you have to separate out. You want partners that are either fiduciaries, so by law, registered investment advisors, or where the incentives are aligned. And that's the problem with Robinhood. You go back to Charlie Munger, right? Show me the incentives, I'll show you the outcome. They are incentivized to have you trade as much as possible. And if you look at their revenue, they're essentially an options firm, right? They make all their money from options, then some stocks, and then in some in crypto. And the problem with payment order for order flow, I actually am not hugely against it. I mean, there's lots of countries that have banned it. My problem is if you're going to have an altruistic message to say, hey, we're here for you guys, people don't care if they sell it. People care if you don't share it. And that is a big difference.
Right. So Matt, then what is the long-term value proposition for a platform like Robinhood? We've seen, revenues just soar and their transaction volume soar earlier this year, but do newer retail investors eventually go with a different platform that is, I don't know, perhaps more transparent or doesn't use that payment for order flow business model?
They will. Robinhood could fix their problems in one day. 3 things they can do.
What is
First, they
that
can
then,
start.
though? Because other brokerages
Okay,
CFO
it's easy. It's easy. And the brokerages all make money in like 4 different ways. It's just they describe it differently, right? And it's same with order flow, short renting, interest, which is like where Schwab makes it. Robinhood could do 3 things. First, start being honest. They're often dishonest in the media. They talk to their customers. They recently came on TV, multiple execs said all their investors are buy and hold investors. I'm sorry, but that is an absolute bold-faced lie, right? They do 80 times the trading that Schwab customers do. Second, so just be honest. Second would be you can share in the short lending and payment for order flow. Most investment companies like ourselves who manage public funds, we do short lending. The difference is we return all of it to our shareholders. One of our lowest cost funds has a 0.34% management fee. Okay. We return 21 basis points of short lending, right? So they could share in that, but they choose not to. And lastly, obviously, they need way more customer support. There was something like 10,000 complaints they didn't even report to the,
So Matt, bottom line, it seems like Robinhood has this line that they're democratizing finance, democratizing investment. I don't see it that way. I mean, it's been easy for 20 years for regular people to directly trade stocks and manage them, et cetera. I guess fractional shares are an innovation, but I don't think Robinhood particularly invented that. But what they're doing is gamifying it. So are they, in a sense, you said this before, they're more Bellagio than Buffett. If they're like Vegas, Vegas goes through these boom bust cycles too, where, when gambling is hot, the economy is good, they're leaning into that, but they're a family destination. When things cool off, is that what Robinhood is going to do and needs to do, is suddenly when meme stocks are no longer a big thing and maybe crypto cools, they become a family trading app, and they lean into investing messages and invest in content and talk about long-term trading and develop some sort of subscription plan for encouraging people to go, save for the long term, invest for the long term.
I love how you basically just described Vanguard, who's been democratizing finance for like 40 years and manages in the trillions. Look, they could. They probably won't. And this is like saying, asking a barber, do you need a haircut, right? They are incentivized to get you to trade as much as possible. Behaviorally, they could put you down the path of, hey, don't trade so much. All the research shows that they're just going to nuke your account by hyperactively trading. Don't check your account 50 times a day. All these things they could do, but again, that means their bottom line revenue is going to be lower, the growth will be lower. They could, but unlikely.
2 emails
Okay,
for
And I think
e-signature.
they might say
Okay.
that they're
And
letting
I'll
the
let you
pastors
know.
make their own
Okay.
decisions.
I'll
and
remind you to check
we'll have
later.
Continue this
Okay.
conversation at a time that favor. Thank you so much for being with us.
Okay.
Still to come, China's crackdown on homegrown tech. We are live from Beijing as DD shares continue to fall. We'll be right back.
In today's digital world, uptime is money, and issues can cost millions. That's why over 13,000 companies and more than 60 of the Fortune 100 rely on PagerDuty to identify issues and automate responses for fast resolution. Yeah, like that. Keep your business always on, customers happy, and protect your bottom line. PagerDuty, ready for anything in a world of digital everything.
Why is everyone?
So anything, Ryan? Look, as CFO, it's my job to be ready for whatever's next. That's why I have my finance team randomly haul things at me. It's also why we use Workday. It gives us insight so we quickly pivot our strategy, people, planning, you name it.
Sorry, sir. I will aim straight at you next.
See what you do. Would you like coffee or?
Workday, the finance, HR, and planning system for a changing world.
You won't faze me. Unlike Vertex, Allegro won't make me drowsy.
Allegro starts working 2 times faster than Claritin. So trees, you won't take me down. When allergies attack, take Allegro.
Before your symptoms take over you.
Live your greatness.
Keeping your oyster business growing as you swap. You need to hire. I need Indeed. Indeed you do. The moment you sponsor a job on Indeed, you get a short list of quality candidates from a resume database. Claim your $75 credit when you post your first job at Indeed.com/promo.
I look for the Well Health Safety Seal wherever I go.
Indeed's health and safety measures have met rigorous scientific standards.
So look for the Well Seal.
Look for the Well Health Safety Seal outside and feel more confident going inside.
hello. Hi, how you doing? Okay. 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 Yeah, that's gonna be tricky. Okay. Okay. Thank you for letting me know. Yeah. And it's pretty safe bet that when they cancel it, it ain't coming back. Is that right? Okay, so do they automatically switch me to that? Is that what they do? Okay, all right, so. Okay, well, there we go. I have to get up awfully early now, don't I? Okay. Yeah, yeah, okay. That's okay, not your fault. I appreciate you letting me know. Yeah, no, I'm not gonna let it run over you. Thank you. All right. Oh, man, my flight that I was gonna take from London to Amsterdam is now canceled. So they booked me on another one that leaves like at 8:40 in the morning or 8:20 in the morning.
So you better be there. at 6.
Yeah, otherwise I had it like 2 in the afternoon, so I had plenty of time to leave the castle and that and get there because I got to drive all the way to London. I got to get to London. So now I'm gonna have to get to bed really early. And yeah, let's do
No
it.
partying for you.
No big party for me.
Oh, is,
Hmm.
do you have anything going on Friday? Any appointments?
No.
out And about?
No.
Because I have a doctor's appointment and it's like in the middle of the day, but there's nothing,
Okay.
I can't,
Yeah, that's fine.
well, I can change it to a few months from now.
No, don't want to postpone those doctor
I
appointments.
really want to go to this one.
Yeah, you gotta get them over with.
I'm tired of being.
Yeah.
Just because of the current environment, but it is a concern that you're seeing reflected in some of the movements by the Chinese government. Now, I'm currently outside of a training center for EV drivers, and the drivers earlier had told us that they are worried about this investigation and potential impact it could have on the business, and specifically for them on their pockets. But of course, the app itself is still functional here. But the drivers at PR are following all the headlines. And tonight, just about an hour ago or so, the China Daily, which is one of the state papers, said no matter how profitable, companies must first take into consideration data security risks. So again, really hitting home what the papers have been saying, that data sovereignty is China's biggest concern. Now, earlier today, Beijing also announced that it's revising its rules for Chinese companies that are looking to list overseas. So the supervisory role of Beijing is going to be much more squarely included in the approval process, with the authorities now having tighter rein over data security, cross-border data flow, confidential information as well, in order to prevent possible leaks. The guidance also mentioned, interestingly, the principle of reciprocity when it comes to several items, but also international audits. And one of the concerns of Congress has been about the accounting standards for a lot of Chinese companies, and there's been a push from Congress on this audit.
With looking on the ground in China, unlike you can get anywhere else in special election. And we're going to stick with the topic of media and the theme of regulation risk, both abroad and here. Joining us now, Spencer Rathkoff, former Zillow CEO, now CEO of Picasso, Palantir. Let's see, not the CEO of Picasso, I know the CEO of Picasso, but you are a co-founder. So talking about regulation and what's happening in China, it seems to be that there's been this slow boil in what's happening there. And I wonder, from your perspective as an entrepreneur, perhaps you look at operating in China, investing in companies that are operating over there. What are your concerns? Are there things that you're not concerned about?
Yeah, well, it's scary on entrepreneurs and anyone that does business in China. And a lot of the companies I've been involved in kind of in China for exactly this reason. And I think it's important, and sometimes people forget that just because you can buy an iPhone in Beijing, it is still an authoritarian regime. And authoritarian regimes worry about any challenge to state power. And, I'll dig deep here, going back to my college political philosophy classes, and say that in the 20th century, that challenge to state power was organized religion. And that's why the Union and the Chinese Communist Party organized religion in the 20th century. Well, in the 21st century, the only thing that can rival the growth of power organized religion is big tech. And that's why they're cracking down on it. And big tech creates these deities, as you just pointed out, these plutocrats that are revered by the populace, and they present challenge to state power, and that's really scary. For dictators, that's not a good.
Yeah, so Spencer, it seems to me at the same time that China is doing things that bodies in the U.S. government want to do, but can't manage to pull off. We're talking about access to customer data. There have been pushbacks against encryption. The government saying, give us a back door. There are entities in the government that are trying to push back on social media's rights to free speech, trying to make them publish what politicians want to say, despite what their private rules might be. What do you think is the role of U.S. companies in
big tech, which is that kind of ladder in the US. I mean, in the US, there are a couple of vectors of regulatory oversight or regulatory scrutiny of big tech, right? There's what's happening with the FTC, which has a new, more activist bent in the Biden administration. And the FTC already has made a big move on July 1st. One of the first changes under the new chairwoman was to rescind the 2016 policy, which now the FTC is able to scrutinize behaviors of companies even before they potentially violate antitrust. And so there's a new, a new rubric against which the FTC is going to be looking at anti-competitive behavior. For example, predatory pricing. So can Amazon slash prices on Amazon Basics, which hurts competitors? So under the old FTC regime, the answer was, well, that's great, that's fine for consumers. Consumers benefit. They use a consumer welfare test, and that was fine. Well, under a new FTC philosophy, that's not so great because it actually is unfair to competitors. The other vector that we're experiencing regulatory risk here in the U.S. is legislation, and there are a couple of laws or bills making their way through the House right now, some of which are really misguided in my view, and very problematic. So one of them, for example, the Ending Platform Monopoly Act, which sounds pretty good. Who wouldn't want to end a monopoly? What it does is it prohibits this platform operator from having horizontal businesses. So Apple, no Apple Maps, no Apple Watch, no Apple iPods, no Apple Music, because they operate a vertical. And I think once you realize that those services would be at risk, I think they start to push back on their list.
Spencer, even as you lay these arguments out, right, this is all going through Congress and there's so many more steps versus in China, we don't really need to have this debate. The government and regulators don't need to debate this in public. So I wonder, at some point, do you think that American companies operating in China, their investors should be worried? Right now, Beijing is cracking down on its own Chinese companies, but when you look at the data that Apple and Tesla and Microsoft are collecting over there, is their attention turned once again? Could they be under pressure?
Yeah, this is very scary for any American company to operate in China. And, companies like Microsoft have done it very carefully and very well. Other companies like Palantir have not touched it and, don't do this to try to instead they focus on the web. But, this is the scary stuff. I mean, for these to go public and then just 2 days later be pulled from the App Store, I mean, like, gosh, the shareholder lawsuits that are probably being filed right now today, because of, alleged exposure to investors in that IPO, and these are the tied up in shareholder lawsuits for years.
Yeah.
It's
We just spoke to one.
yeah,
We just spoke to one early investor who said he had no idea that they were even under investigation or that there was any potential pushback to listing. So, what he said is get to the bottom of this. I'm sure many are asking that question early, and investors that just got in over the last week. Spencer, as always, thank you. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you.
Meanwhile, Bitcoin is still down about 50% from its high back in April. The declines may weigh on quarterly results for companies like Tesla that now hold crypto on their balance sheets. Kate Rainey is live in San Francisco with more. Kate, we talked a little bit about this last week, but this could have implications for those companies, for companies looking or thinking about putting crypto on their balance sheets.
That's true. Tesla's not alone here. Those recent price drops and crypto accounting rules are setting up some losses for Tesla, like you mentioned, other companies holding Bitcoin. Tesla first disclosed its crypto purchases back in February. We don't have exact timing, but analysts think it was when Bitcoin was around $32,000 or $33,000. Bitcoin sunk below that price in the second quarter, meaning Tesla will face what's known as an impairment charge. Tesla holds crypto as an intangible asset. Because of accounting rules, the company says if Bitcoin's price falls under the carry cost, which is where Tesla bought in at any time after they bought it, an impairment cost will be recognized. Tesla has to mark that down on its financial statement. But on the flip side, Tesla can't mark up the value of its Bitcoin. That is, until they sell it. Analysts I'm talking to are looking for between a $25 million and $100 million impairment cost for Tesla in the quarter. They tell me it's really been a Rubik's Cube to try to figure out, and an overhang recently on the stock. But they're gearing up for more quarter-to-quarter impairment with Bitcoin's volatility, which does not seem to be going away. And for other companies holding crypto, it is the same math. It all depends on the price where they bought in. Square, for example, might be in slightly better shape. It bought the majority
gave its Bitcoin back in October 2020, but it still bought some this year. Meanwhile, MicroStrategy has been on a buying spree, even using debt to buy more Bitcoin. And the big thing, guys, that folks are watching for Tesla in particular, did Elon Musk sell Bitcoin in the past few months? If you remember, the first quarter Bitcoin sales boosted Tesla's profits by more than $100 million. Guys, back to you. Yeah, we could see Elon Musk continue to move the price of Bitcoin if that actually happened. Hey, thank you so much for that. Coming up next, Nextdoor goes public via SPAC. Tech Tech is back in 2 minutes.
There's an America built with one stuff. One thing that one that's forever wild. But we just want to think that the wildly civilized, all new 3-row Jeep Grand Cherokee L.
Had enough? No, arthritis. Here, new Asperger arthritis.
Subscription strength reduces inflammation, saves the goal, and
Camera cream. Somebody is a one-stop shop for your finances. Designed to work better together. Save, spend, borrow, invest, and earn cashback rewards. All in one app. That's how you get your money right with SoFi. Dave's arm fell asleep 10 minutes ago, but that's okay. Right now, life is perfect. Even though a few hours earlier, that could mean weeks of aggravation. But back when Dave shopped around for auto insurance, he switched to Amica. You've heard of love at first sight. This is peace of mind at first call. Any Amica customer will tell you, Amica delivers an experience that meets the highest standards. Yours. Call now or visit Amica.com to get a quote.
Celebrate the freedom of a great night's sleep and save big during the extended July 4th sale at Denver Mattress. Right now, everything is on sale. Like the Dr. Swiss Firm, just $617.49. Or check out the budget-friendly Summit Firm, easy on the wallet for just $284.99. Or try the Eurotop for just $332.49. Or a Dr. Swiss pillow for just $39.99. Plus 5 years, no interest, and free shipping right to your doorstep. But hurry, the extended July 4th sale at Denver Mattress ends Thursday.
This is an urgent consumer alert from Timeshare Cancellation Advocates, a national company specializing in helping consumers legally get rid of their expensive timeshares. Once you've made that decision to get rid of your timeshare for any reason, Timeshare Cancellation Advocates is offering a Better Business Bureau accredited way to legally get rid of your timeshare. Guaranteed. We guarantee to get rid of your timeshare payments permanently, and we can pay your 2020 maintenance fee once qualified. Please call 800-265-2440.
We're thrilled this morning to be announcing the go public moment with the Coastal Ventures SPAC. It's going to bring in a lot of proceeds, $686 million of gross proceeds, and a real blue chip set of investors.
New this morning, Nextdoor, the social network app for neighbors, has also go public via SPAC. The 10-year-old startup at over $4 billion. The SPAC is run by Coastal Ventures, and the company raising just under $700 million in gross proceeds as part of that deal. You just heard from Nextdoor CEO Sarah Fryer, who used to be the CFO over at Square a moment ago, about that decision. Here is the other side of the SPAC. Early investor, Silicon Valley luminary, Vinod Khosla, on the investment opportunity.
Sarah and I worked together for a long time at Square. We saw its market cap go from $2 billion at IPO to $100 billion. We know each other well. But Nextdoor is the neighborhood social network, just like LinkedIn is the professional network. And it has these strong, not only the strong network effects, but very strong local online, offline effects, which are very, very rare.
Other Nextdoor investors include Kathy Woods, ARK, Benchmark, Tiger Global, and T. Rowe Price. Nextdoor will trade under the ticker KIND, KIND. With that, CBU expected to close in the fourth quarter of this year. John, I spoke to Sarah a few months ago, and she said the market conditions had to go right to go public, but they were ready, and indeed, now looks like to be the time for her.
I guess, I don't get it. I mean, this does not look like the type of company that I would expect to be a SPAC candidate. I mean, it's a consumer brand. It's a brand a lot of people know. It's got a pedigreed CEO. It's in social networking. I mean, I'm surprised they went this route. Perhaps responsible, but I'll bet if they had gone a different route, they could have gotten even more valuation. Curious. Anyway, speaking of SPACs, Alight officially making its debut this morning. We're going to speak with the CEO next. Stay with us.
Had enough? No, arthritis. Here, do arthritis.
Why are hundreds of thousands of investors getting help from Optical Stock Advisor? Well, it's simple. Our average stock has returned 580%, and that's 5 times the return of the S&P 500. When you become a member of Stock Advisor, we'll send you 2 new stock picks each month. If you go to pool.com/TV, you'll see a special introductory offer that's 50% less than thousands of our members have happily paid. Don't look back with regret. Just go to pool.com/TV now. 3 meetings and 3 stops. Never enough time. Never consider flying private jet. Have to check out one flight back. The bad makes searching and booking private jet. My location is airport. Then from over 4,000 jets. One flight. When I land, there's always a car waiting. Courtesy of one flight is what your time worth. That is. At Southern New Hampshire University, we're committed to making college more accessible by making it more affordable. That's why we're keeping our tuition the same through the year 2021.
I knew SNHU was the place for me when I saw how affordable it was. I ran my husband with my computer and I said, look, we can do this.
Take advantage of some of the lowest online tuition rates in the nation. Find your degree at snhu.edu.
But you know what's me? Using ZocDoc to book a same day appointment. But then, sure. ZocDoc makes healthcare easy.
You got the magic.
Stocks are bouncing. The Dow was down 400 points. We now recovered a little bit, down about 315. Watch shares of American Express got an upgrade to buy at Goldman. Says there's 30% upside for the rest of the year. Just a moment.
in advance.
Yeah, I don't know. There's something they don't like. They're seeing, they probably see they're not getting enough people. They can look, this flight's not gonna fill up.
Well, yeah, that's right.
It's not, you know,
But
and
it's
there's too much,
still
you know, and they may be moving flights around too, like, we got more people, we're better off moving this plane to a different city to fly to a different place than we are. This one could be at risk. London may not, Netherlands may not let London in, you know,
Yeah.
and I'm sure they go, okay, this is not gonna make. So
Yeah.
what can you do?
Can you do?
Two biggest areas of investment are commercial infrastructure. We have hired value engineers, we have hired solution architects to go to our, the fact that we serve half the Fortune 500 and 70 of the Fortune 100 clients. So we've gone in, John, hired these great commercial assets to go in and work with CFOs, CHRs, CHROs, and board members in stitching together that end-to-end experience for employees. And then on the second side, we've hired a lot in engineering, and we've delivered Health Cloud, Wealth Cloud, Payroll Cloud, all this year, hiring hundreds of engineers as we speak and building out our new R&D organization with all of these months. There's a lot of clarity on the strategy. Congratulations on the first official day of the
gut check on shares of Virgin Galactic downgraded at UBS this morning. The stock has ripped higher up nearly 3 times from its lows just over a month ago. They go to neutral, saying the positive news is now priced in. The shares are up another 4% today. Fact check is back after one more quick break.
government's record debt, inflation rising, economies What combined is the risk of shares and those issues. The business is great. My stock is close to that. The gold standard. So people call my future. There's one action. Thanks for tuning in. All play. We promise to serve as seriously as you can.
Great things from the edge. The first for perspective power. And Houston has built this a place where people, devices, and business connect, where that basically insight and countless opportunities. This is much more than a sense of nobody dreams in conventional systems. If you didn't get it, it doesn't excel at all. Or disrupt that. T-Mobile for Business uses unconventional to help you realize new possibilities on America's largest, fastest, and most reliable 5G network. A customer experience that finds solutions to the and first-class benefits like 5G every plan. Network support and value without any trade-off. That's T-Mobile for Business.
Hiring? ZipRecruiter helps me find qualified candidates really fast. 4 to 5 employers get a quality candidate first day. If you have a job, there's a candidate for you. Try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/.
Biden says they're still holding out hope for the people who have not been found in that collapse of Surfside.
Alive. It's been over
Yeah.
a week now, right? Oh, he's just trying to.
They're
he's
holding
just-
out hope. We're holding out. We got hope.
Yeah. He's so full of shit.
Still holding out hope.
He just wants to say what people want to hear.
You just want to read what's on the teleprompter.
Yeah. Exactly. 7-6. Woo. Alrighty.
Here's more than half over.
I know. Yeah.
Oh.
First week of July is gone.
All that was really happening beneath the surface was the growth train was biding its time. You saw these epic setup points, these really long bases. Amazon, such a great example of that. We talked about the bigger the base, the higher the stakes. Amazon's base in July of last year. This breakout, which today is absolutely epic, is almost 12 months in the making. And there were a lot of charts like that. So now the cyclical's gonna whack. The XLE is down 3%. They're hitting the regional banks. There's a lot going on right now, but people are returning to the companies that they know, even if the economy has peaked in terms of its growth rate and starts to decelerate, they know that these companies are not peaking, are not decelerating, are a secular source. There are a lot of places to go for investors, not just buy stocks. It seems like that sometimes, but obviously the big five, all of phenomenal today. Google new highs, Microsoft new highs, Facebook new highs. But then look, Shop is running, Zoom is running, DocuSign's running. So there's a lot to like in the long-term growth rate. Those stocks are working really well once again. And I hope you didn't sell them all out to buy a company that makes, leg fillings for the grandmother's teeth. Those stocks are working. I mean, because the 10-year peak is at 143, 140. I mean, that's something you're looking at closely as these stocks continue to work. It's no surprise if the 10-year is falling, then these stocks are going to be working. Sure. Well, and we talked about this for a long time now. We talked about the pause of seeing some Apple and Microsoft. A lot of those things that it paused, although Facebook was not in the pause category, it's been on fire. But thanks. Sorry to interrupt you. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I overdid it a little bit. We're at 136 now. That's the lowest level today. You concerned about that? I think it's something concerning. Raoul Paul's been all over this, and he talked about the idea that, hey, look, everybody's worried about the upside. How about the downside? What if we break from 1.4? What if we start to slip a little bit further? Now, this is one day. Let's not make too much of it. I think the reality is there are a lot of folks out there that are very, very concerned, I think, watching this. And obviously, you see that what people are doing with their hands and legs. They are jumping and getting out of financial materials. Gosh, a lot of those different areas that everybody said, well, you got to be in this area, you got to be in it. I still believe in the energy materials trade, but I think that the reality is they've had an unbelievable run since November. They've had this incredible stretching, long stretch of run. Why couldn't they pause for a little while? Maybe that's what we're seeing right now. I don't think those trades are over with, but I think the reality is we have been starting to see more and more flows come into technology names, whether it's Facebook, whether it's Apple, you go through the entire list, all of those names just continue to hit, including today. The first 4 unusual option activities, this isn't giving anything away because these aren't on the list for later, but the very first that hit on our program today were Apple, Google, Amazon, and NVIDIA. So it gives you a little bit of a sense of what people going into today, looking at some of the different things that are going on in the backdrop, and a lot of gigantic things. When I look at Amazon, if somebody buys 10,000 calls in Amazon, that says a lot, because we're not talking about dollar calls and $3 calls. We're talking about calls that go all the way up to $50. So very, very expensive, and yet they are continuing to run into a lot of this technology games.
Joe, the 10-year is dragging the overall market, don't you think? I mean, the 10-year continues to drop, stocks are gonna drop. In some respects, this now, you know, it's gonna make you question, a lot of things, isn't it?
No, first of all, welcome back, Scott, but absolutely been talking about 10-year, and we've been trying to figure the puzzle. Why is the 10-year priced at 1.35? On June 1st, the 10-year was 1.60. We've got a 25 basis point decline here on the better part of 1 month. Since then, growth is up 8%, values down 2%. And what does the market do? The market's just reacting and responding to that very aggressive pullback yield. That's why you're seeing right now the attraction towards growth, which really equates to defense in the market. And that's going to continue to persist. You're going to see yields move lower. The reasons behind why these yields continue to move lower, is it the Delta variant, or is it, Scott, that basically we have to be open once, and the roaring 20s, the narrative surrounding the roaring 20s and outside above trend economic growth, well, that's great for society, but maybe not equating to the economy in reality growing organically.
Shannon, Rick Santelli knows rates as well as anybody. Says you get close to the support zone of 135 to 138, we're right in the zone, okay? If you close below that, then you can get a 1% retest on the 10-year. I think the market's going to love that.
No, I don't disagree with you, Scott. I think that there is some concern. Federal Service number today is a little bit bigger than anticipated. And to Joe's point, you only reopen once. And I want to go back actually.
Okay, you should have
We were really looking
2 emails, because you have to sign for branch. Yeah, for e-signature.
Okay, oh, okay, I see.
So
Okay, I
it's
see.
one's for
One, by
FA.
way, DocuSign, this one here.
One's for FA, the other one's for branch.
Oh, I gotta do it twice.
Yes, yes. It's your thing.
Okay. I need to click the start button or just click, I don't know where, should I hit the start button or just where it says sign?
Just,
Maybe just where it says sign. I think that's. Yeah, I'm done. Finish. So the deal is like, I have to do the start button. Okay, let's see. No thanks, right? Okay, so that's, I've taken care of one. Now, is there gonna be another one coming?
yes.
It's not available. You want to proceed? Thank you.
Yeah,
That's
where's
2
this
questions. Okay.
Peru?
Oh, so the other one will come later? It's not, okay, I'll be looking for it.
Yeah,
Okay,
they don't
gotcha.
come like together.
Okay, here it
together.
came. Here
Here
it
it
came,
Oh,
sure
there
enough.
it is.
Those documents.
Yeah. And you do the same, and that should take care of it. Yeah, we were having issues with Joseph's account because his 2 sisters had capital access accounts, but he did not. And Alex was trying to put money into his account and he didn't know how to do it. And anyway, he wasn't paying attention to what I was telling him. So anyway, so we said, let's just make his account capital access as well. Not that he has to pay for it. 'Cause
No.
if you have over $1 million, then you're exempt. from it.
Okay, well, there you go.
And Joseph's account has
Okay,
$1.7 million.
very good. Oh, now I got another one. It just maybe says complete. I got another email.
Um,
Jeez. Boy, they slammed this market now. Ouch. Oh, do I have two more that I need to send in to you?
No,
Okay,
that was it.
okay.
You're probably just getting a confirmation.
Oh, one of them says document's been completed. The other one said, send me a document to review and sign. They're all done. Okay, all right. They're just slow on the uptake, I guess.
Yeah, I said all along this year, the market had the wrong on inflation. Follow the bond market, follow the Fed. We've tried to outsmart ourselves again. And I think you need to really focus on the strength of the U.S. market overall and the strength of consistency of our earnings. And that's really going to be the key. I mean, Josh said it best. You can't go one way or the other. The market is too binary, and you have to be diversified across all sectors. And you have to really think about some of the moves that have happened. Like REITs make absolutely no fundamental sense to me that they've led this year because we've been in a rising rate environment we thought, but now rates are going down, so that doesn't make sense. Energy is way overdone on the upside. We think you're going to lighten up somewhere. Lighten up there. I think a lot of investors are very uncomfortable thinking like that. That sounds perfect. I mean, in this environment, I'm sorry, but if rates are going to continue to fall, and Santelli's right, if you do close below that channel that he's talking about, and then we start talking about, are we really going to go back to 1% on the 10-year? in that environment, why would I want to be equal weight everything? Why would I, and if we're worried about the Delta variant, which the data coming out of Israel is somewhat concerning, if I'm worried about all that, why would I want to be equal weight value and cyclical to growth? Why would I want to go heavier growth? Listen, again, you want to be overweight communication services and technology for the next 3 to 5 years. Those are the great vehicles of the economy, period. Now, I'm not a doctor, nor do I play one on TV. I always caution my colleagues around the world, stop trying to be a doctor, pick stock to be a strategist. And I think that's what our job is. And I think at the end of the day, we can't be led by fear, because fundamentals diffuse fear. And that's what the market says. Why fear? We don't know that stuff. Yeah, but we don't know that, Scott. We don't know that. And I think we're getting too wrapped up into the fear of the Delta variant, and we're not focusing on the positive with respect to what's going on in the market. And the U.S. economy continues to do well. It's going to continue to pay. It's just like I said on your program, live on TV, March 23rd, 2020, and I'll publish that day. The fortitude and strength of the U.S. economy and the stock market is going to get us out of this, and it did. Now you have to diversify, not all your eggs in one basket. Yes, longer term, definitely overweight tech and communication services. The place is until then, we think markets have been too momentum-late, too non-process and discipline, too rhetoric-driven. You have to stick with the fundamentals, take stock, and stay in your business. Why is it NASDAQ down 100 points? What do you think? Well, I think some of the heavier companies might have some issues in terms of just growth proposals. I think some people forgot that second and third quarter are kind of tougher on technology with respect to numbers. Longer term, that's really the trend. But you want to stick with stable growth, consistent growth, and that's why you coined the phrase earlier in the program. The Big Five makes so much sense. Secular tech ideas like NVIDIA still make a lot of sense in terms of portfolios longer term. And I still think you don't want to completely abandon financials. I think the big financials, like the Bank of America, JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, both thematically driven stocks of scale, still make a lot of sense longer term. And it's the regional banks that I worry more about, Scott, especially given the fact that yield curve is flattening in the absolute level of yield. It's harder for those companies to make money from net interest margin compression. For the larger banks, I think they're in better position. You can't tell me that these larger banks, the ones that I'm looking at them red across the board, are going to do anything in an environment where rates continue to go lower. Think that happens? Yeah, they're not. You know it too. Well, think about Scott. I mean, think about where the growth proposal is for banks, right? It's wealth management. It's wealth management and capital markets. And that's where we're going to make our money in terms of continue to have access to capital in the free market, but also wealth management. So let's talk about this. If you're going to see rates come forward, then you're going to see portfolio shift into fixed income. That's a transaction. Okay. We're a transaction-oriented business, and that's why you need a word. You're speaking Morgan Stanley, but not everybody. Not everybody has that big ramp towards wealth management. It's not one size fits all, Ryan. No, it's not. And that's why you want the multi-divisional asset. Okay, so it is a Goldman Sachs, because Goldman Sachs. Look what they've done in private wealth the last 6 to 12 months. Look at Bank of America. Look at JP Morgan. Look at the Canadian bank. They are many big pharma banks. They're many multinational banks. And I mean, the top 10 banks in North America, 4 of them are Canadian. So that's why we like those multi-divisional assets, because wealth management business will be strong, commercial bank and lending will be strong, and capital markets. All right. I like the stuff you're doing there for the Canadian bank. All right. I mean, it is what it is. Over his shoulder. Josh Brown has a question for Bill.
Hey, Bill, Steve, great to see you. I agree with most of what you had to say. I've been talking about the idea that we're in a secular bull market that started in the spring of 13 when we broke above the 2000 and 2007 highs. And if you think about it in that context, the coronavirus year in 2020 looks a lot more like 1987, which happened at the midpoint of the 2000 secular bull market. So if we're only halfway, based on that premise, I think the biggest risk to stocks is just oversupply. We did 226 IPOs already year-to-date, which is obviously double the pace from last year. $80 billion in assets raised. That's not slowing down. right? And, capacity versus scarcity, with scarcity of stock, scarcity of ideas, and scarcity of shares, right? That's called the buyback. By the way, some of the things that you just talked about are going to be taken care of by buyback. We know what the banks are going to be doing in terms of buyback. All you have to do is take a look at the path of Treasury relative to buyback needs. So I think buybacks are continuing. But I think, what no one's talking about at all anymore is this great rotation out of fixed income and into equities. We had a 39-year bull market in bonds. When are we going to start? When are we going to see moves out of bonds? And Rick Santelli, I don't know if he's right or wrong, but that's just only a long days in the equity bull market, Josh, because we haven't seen that money leave fixed income and go into equities. So I think there's a long runway in equities. And by the way, I don't believe all of this survey stuff that people are negative. I mean, if you on the survey side, the best gauge of a customer's activity in terms of their sentiment is talk to them. And I don't think we've talked to enough clients. If I talk to my clients, everyone's nervous. Nobody wants to jump on the bull market. Wealth management, high net worth people want to put money to work. They do. And I think that's going to be the strength of the market going forward. That's where the cash is going to come from. What's your target for next year on the S&P? For 2022, we haven't put out our target yet. We usually do that in the fourth quarter. That's been our process for 30 years. And we published our 2021 target in November. We'll see where that goes. I think 2022 could be bumpier. But let's what? We're going to underpromise and overdeliver as we try to do. And I think 4,500 on our target for this year might be too low. Our $190 target on earnings is going to be too low, I think. But let's see how we get there, what the composition of the market is. I think at the end of the year, you're going to see eerily similar performance in growth versus value. So again, on a relative basis, you probably have a growth trade coming. It's already happening. But I think it's eerily similar performance in terms of those two assets in particular at the end of the year. Now, I gotta let you go because I gotta take a quick break. But when you were last on, and I asked you what area more than any other do you want to be, and I know we just talked about this, but just to underscore your belief in this sector, you said financials. Not once, not twice, but 3 times. It was so nice. Are you rethinking that now? Just look me straight in the camera and tell me you still believe that. I still believe that, especially in the big banks, and I still believe that the majority of institutional clients are massively underweight. And so, again, that's going to be your trading vehicle. I really think that, again, longer term, we love tech and communication services, but I did say financials, and the name of my favorite stocks here right on here. All right, good stuff. So we always appreciate having you on. You do well. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you. All right, that's BMO's Brian Nelson joining. Coming up, Didi and the big China side. They're plunging today on more fears, more crackdown, buy and drop or stay away altogether. We'll debate that with you next. A reminder, you can always watch or listen to us live on the go on the CBC app. Back for that. I look for the weather and safety as my favorite place. It needs health and safety measures that meet rigorous scientific standards. So look for the well.
Look for the well, help make you feel outside and feel more confident going inside. Had enough? No, arthritis. Here, new aspirin arthritis. Full prescription strength. Reduces inflammation. Thanks for all that stuff. Thanks for what you said.
Pain in the aspirin cream.
You know what hurts?
But you know what? Hey, using ZocDoc to fight the diabetes. Ready to go put something? ZocDoc makes healthcare easy.
We sit for over 9 hours every single day.
After one day of working, something will give us quick relief. Still working from home?
It's lightweight and portable, so you can make every single chair ergonomic.
Standing desks, headphones, blue light glasses, a sweatshirt, blankets. The pocket is large enough to fit a tablet. Shark Tank has the products to get the job done. Smart. Shark Tank, tonight at Eastern, CNBC, and yours. This is what we're made of. The businesses that run our streets and the customers that make them flourish. As a business owner, this is your community, your neighbors, your members, your regulars.
Business is unique. So are your customers. No matter who you need to reach, we're here to help you connect with the right message for every screen for your business. Visit SpectrumReach.com to connect with the local advertising experts and let us show you around.
Hey, Randy? Got a problem with my cursor here. I don't know if it's, I don't know if I need to shut everything off. I can see the arrow, but it won't move. I've replugged in the mouse. And it won't move. The arrow's over there. I don't know why it just, I was working fine. And then all of a sudden, zoop. So I don't know what happened. Computer's frozen? Then I have to shut it off and restart and reset.
Okay, so next time when you're trying to reset it, you know how you had
time.
no, you know you had the problem the other day because you hit that button.
Mhm.
See the one below it?
Yeah.
That's a reset button.
Oh, I didn't know that. No, it should be.
That's not working right now.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe
Restart.
maybe
Okay.
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 There've been so many Windows updates, and I mean, so every time you get one, it breaks a little bit more, and you have to, your best bet is to always just start fresh. Okay. Every single phone.
Well, I just make the change, yeah. You know,
Everybody, whether it's Bloomberg's or
yeah.
theirs, whatever.
Match it exactly.
And
I
those
see.
smoothing factors, see, because there are.
Let me ask you this though, let me ask you this. In the way that I talked to you at the very beginning, I mentioned that you owned Baba as recently as, let's say, the beginning of this year. Now, all of this may be escalating today and recently, but it's not like it's all that new of this interference you're getting from the authorities over in China. So what was the breaking point for you, which made you say, I'm never going to buy any stocks again? If as recently as 6 months ago, you were still willing to try and play the game in these days.
Well, actually, 6 months ago, go back to my own father, actually, rich trade. And I was taught at some point that 5
Yeah, it takes about
on
2,200 calculations per stock to get that. And that's just for 1 year of data, which isn't a big deal, but you got to understand they're all feeding into each other. You got things, and that's not counting the fact that inside of a standard deviation, you have a average, you know, and inside of an average, you got so I mean, if you were to really want to count it, it's a lot of, you know, it's probably about 10,000 calculations per stock. And each one, you have things like rolling standard deviations and rolling averages that, and so you have to adjust those windows and, you know, figure, so basically I'm just kind of tweaking different variables I can here and there, but I'm getting much closer. It's starting to look right. I'll never get it 100%, but if I can get it to between 90 and 95%, we're golden. You know, we're as good as everyone else because nobody is 100% with each other on this. So. As long as the arrows go in the right way, it's in the right general area and in the right quadrant, then we're good. You know.
Are you selling it here?
And you know, there's proprietary little factors that they're using to.
I think there is an additional level.
We could always throw our own proprietary factor in there. So do something like a CAN score, what you call it.
I think what you put in there would be the CAN score, but the accumulation distribution, the institution. In other words, institutional.
Well, the problem with
acquisition, in other words, is it going up on volume? Is that factored at all in the momentum?
No, shouldn't be.
There are going to be some push
No.
and pull.
Volume is not considered in any way, and it
I
shouldn't
think
be.
the Biden stance on China is certainly a little bit different than some were anticipating. But for me, I look at this for the next couple of years. I think that there's an.
But actually, yeah, no, throwing anything like that, it's got to be something that's kind of near 100 all the time.
But I do think that there is just this additional level of.
There's some kind of reading that he's doing that. I just don't know. Maybe something simple or something. You know, put himself in
Good morning, Jerry. How you doing today? Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, you sound pretty good. Your voice sounds strong. You sound good today. So you're feeling good. Mm-hmm. No, not at all. But the strength of your voice sounds good too. So that's good. Yeah, that's good. I'm doing fine. Okay, today. Surprised to see the market down as much as we are. Yeah, down a lot more than I would have expected. The Dow in particular. Yeah. In fact, I looked at a couple of our oil positions. I don't know, maybe I have to trim back a little bit, but yeah, crude took a little bit of a hit today. And yeah, everything across the board is pretty much weaker. Seeing the S&P down 80 basis points. NASDAQ held up comparatively well, but still down about 61 basis points. So the worst one's the Dow, which would have surprised me, and then the S&P. So I thought Dow would probably be the least likely to go down today, but not the case. So right now it's showing some weakness everywhere, and the bonds surprised me too. Seeing the 10-year Treasury go down to 1.36, surprising. Yeah, it just keeps surprising me. Yeah. Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it definitely is making everybody rethink what's happening. But yeah, I think that's the head scratcher and not good for the market if it looks like it's going to get that weak. But it's helping the growth stocks.
Pulls it off. Yeah. Yeah, major signal, we're in a different kind of economy than you know, the 100-year ago economy of the roaring 20s of the 1920s, but it's definitely a different kind of economy with pressure, with technology. Yeah. Yeah. So, that's it. We're surprised to see it this week today when you got all these tailwinds supposedly moving for you. But the day's not over yet either, so I've seen them come back from being further down than this, so we'll see. In the day, it does happen. See if that's the way it's gonna play. What else do you know? Meet with whom? He asked me if I met with whom? Yeah, who? Are you talking about Chapman? Yeah, no, I meet with him tomorrow. My appointment's scheduled for tomorrow. So I wanted to meet with him over the weekend, but he didn't have time. So tomorrow afternoon, I'm gonna meet with him after the market closes. So I'll head his way and have my list of all my questions and hopefully have everything figured out for the game plan after that. We'll get going on it tomorrow. A lot of questions, but I don't know what the answers are going to be. No clue what they're going to be. Yeah, yeah. So I think the key is how to play this game and how much we can obtain from any kind of judgment. What's the maximum expected take if we did everything right? What's the most we could expect? So. Yeah. So we'll be under that. Will do. All right, Jerry, you take care. Talk to you soon. All right, thank you. Don't get on there.
Did you see your alerts? You're past due.
What past due alerts? What are you
Something
talking about?
about Catherine.
Where'd you see that?
Catherine's account.
Catherine Patchkey? Where is that at?
Oh, no, look under.
Alert?
Click this. And then. the report.
Oh, I think. Oh, it's probably too big a position. I think I already
Yeah.
did these. That's what bothers me, is I did these. Both hers, is that hers?
Yeah, that's.
I did hers and I did Jeff's. I did them both,
And
and they're still showing. So I must have done
Yeah.
something wrong in
So-
addressing them.
go to.
Yeah, I did this. Irritating. I did both of those. And I don't know what happened. Let's see if it even shows it on here. This is what. This should be easy, right? It's not easy. You do everything and it's like, where the hell did it go? See if it's got my, okay. Because I responded and I filled it out. What are they saying?
So yeah, so you've got to answer these questions,
Okay.
the date you talked.
Oh, yeah, date. Yeah.
And why she's keeping these rationale.
Yeah.
So
What a
anyway,
Buddha's pain.
yeah, you're right.
Buddha's pain. I did these. And I did Jeff's too. And I don't know why they don't show up.
They just didn't get it quick.
I must have pushed a button somewhere. Somehow a button didn't get pushed right. I don't even know why they put these check requests on there. I mean, what's the point? They've been completed and they still show them.
Yeah, all those other alerts were.
Yeah.
I guess. So you can see what kind of money money movement I'm making for our clients because you don't physically do it yourself. I
Yes,
do.
I don't know.
I don't know, maybe you should.
I gotta keep a sharper eye on you.
Yes, you do.
Watch you more
So
careful.
when
I
I'm
got
starving.
watch you.
You can.
Put a camera. I'm gonna put a camera on your desk all day.
Oh, darn.
And a recorder too. If you make any faces I don't like, I'm gonna do something about it. Make rude comments that I don't appreciate. All right, put this one in my travel file. Now that we solved these legal problems, we gotta create travel issues now.
Oh,
That's my new itinerary for London to Amsterdam. Amsterdam. Hey, Randy, have you done anything on your plans yet? I mean, I won't get one. I'm gonna tell them what they can do with their portal too.
coming down for February. Maybe it's finally ready to bounce. We'll see.
All right, good stuff. We will see all of you in just 2 minutes after this break and final trade.
These days, you have to keep everything moving and reinvent the wheel. With a hybrid, well, you can do better. That's why manufacturers are going hybrid with IBM. With Watson on a hybrid cloud, the factories use AI to automate the little things so they can focus on the next big. Businesses that want to innovate at scale are going with a smarter hybrid cloud using the technology of IBM.
Time to take Dysol. Dysol reduces energy while you sleep if you were refreshed. And 15 seconds after just 1 day, 90% of powerful 24-hour breathing. So, Dysol, take Dysol at night. I look for the weather and make it like my favorite place. It needs help. Rigorous scientific standards. So look for the well.
Look for the well, help take outside and feel more confident going inside.
The record keeps taking a toll from coast to coast. When does this end? The COVID Delta variant raises questions about that vaccine still causing war.
Tis not. Oh, it is. Jeez. I lied. Tis time. Tis time. Oh, you've done that before. Don't play so innocent with me. I know you.
always find quick fixes. And what a wild session up for the NASDAQ. Look at that, we're having a conversation with Joe and Brian Belsky, NASDAQ down 100. Now it's only down 50. Dow was touching a low about 400 or so. And we're obviously watching them. Things that go very, very close today. It's right at about 136. Level, Joe, is that now the thing to watch? We're watching the 10-year. Only now we're not worried about going up. We're worried about going back down. Clearly, you said before, going down below 120.
The sales for reopening the healthcare system started with a lot of punishment for procedures and regular process.
All I can say there is that people really have a nice report when they have right.
Okay, what is it you want, Miss Elba?
Craven.
I'm not craving anything. I don't care so much.
And thank you, Scott. Hi, everybody. I'm Kelly Evans. And here's what's ahead today on the exchange. China is cracking down on its own company. TV shares are plunging. We're going to look at why they're doing it and what it means for investing in China going forward. And OPEC meets with the deal. Maybe it's your high. It's $100 a barrel net. Declaration of that. And AMC gets up on a shareholder vote. Advertising are giving them on Apple. And Wall Street bankers who don't quite have a force all may be looking for a new place to work and investment. Those stories are all coming up in that fire today. But we begin with the markets and Dow Jones is back with those numbers. I got a bit of a delayed sell-off on the Friday down number of the round that we saw the record high. We did, by the way, believe it or not, hit a record high in the S&P 500. Just after the open bell today, if you're a lower day, that's a 7-day increase in the S&P 500. By the way, if you look at the context of where we're at today, at the high today, the Dow was down roughly 27 points, at the low down 427 points. So we're kind of towards the lower end of that range right now. Watch what's happening today. 1.16% is the best 10-year credit for the U.S. Federal Reserve over that 1.6%. You may recall that earlier this year, we were around 1.76%. So again, it's like interesting this year, we're going to go from over that new outperform the technology there. Also, what's happening for the bank. With this great results right now, all the cash got about almost 6%. Got about 2% stock for taking about 7 points of the Dow overall stock ratio. Pretty heavy with the financial and downside. Maybe financial downside from the lack on the regional bank side as well. Thanks for focus. And then I think I hope we mentioned it, if you take a look at the overall market, we might see that move forward from this. Let's take things up right there. Shares dropping sharply after China revealed more details about the private security review. Banning the download of apps, the stock was 20% as well as gains at well below its offering price of $14. This happened. It's down 30% to the reason it's a day high here to both the broader implications.
Okay. Choices.
Okay.
RV. 2%.
I think Arby's 2 for 6. Yeah, me and Arby's. We're going with Arby's.
You've done enough.
I'll be super sick.
Alright, I'll tell you what. We have, there's tenders, like 3 tenders. There's a chicken sandwich and there's the turkey gyro.
Turkey gyro.
That's what you know. Alright. Your sister's 25. You're gonna have a party.
Oh, I got it.
You got a quarter. I know you do, because I gave you some.
All God's children got a quarter.
There you go.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry, what's that? Yeah. You come in there? Huh? Okay. Give you an idea. Right. Yeah. Right. Okay.
And I've thrown other symbols in there too.
Okay.
And they work just fine. So, you know, it's never gonna be 100%.
Right. I get that.
But, and what I did is, see, I'm comparing against Optima and they've got that sensitivity thing. I don't know what the hell that is. I called them this morning and, one of the guys there said there might be a white paper on what that is. He's gonna try to find it for me. So if that is, then maybe I can include that, but it may be a proprietary indicator.
Okay.
There's nothing we can do to match it exactly, but we're so close here.
Okay.
And this is, you know, this is free.
I got you.
Now, right now, it's only a few symbols. I would have to set, you know, it's a spreadsheet right now. I'd have to set it up as a program to run through all the symbols,
Okay.
you know, through a massive list of symbols, but that's easy enough to do. None of these calculations are
anything too difficult. Literally, the hardest calculation is doing this one where you do, you take the value minus the mean divided by the standard deviation. Like it's, we're talking basic stuff, basic statistics here, so. And then just a lot of smoothing that goes on. So.
Sounds good.
Yeah. I'm gonna see if I can get it to display multiple values at the same time on the same chart. If I can, then I can set that up quickly with just the tickers we're in, the sector tickers. And then you can just have, and it would run from your computer. You could have a spreadsheet that you can just pull up every day and have your sector RRGs. And that would be far simpler. That one it's small enough that I could keep it just as a spreadsheet. I wouldn't actually have to write any code. But yeah, there's just, technically it could work for doing the 4,000 or 8,000 symbols or whatever.
Yeah.
As a spreadsheet, it would just be the slowest spreadsheet in the world because you would have to have, it's like, there's like 9 different columns per symbol. So the spreadsheet would just get unwieldy so fast. It would take you 30 minutes to open the thing. So it just doesn't make sense that way. But programmatically, it's very doable, very easy. And I actually came up with the way what I was working on yesterday. I was doing it from oldest to newest, and I came away to do it backwards, going newest to oldest, and get the same results. Which seems like it would be the math is weirdly it's not more complicated. You just kind of have to invert it in a weird way in some places, but it programmatically it'll make it a hell of a lot easier to program. Because then you're stepping forward through things instead of looping backwards, which those backward looping things get. When you have some stuff that loops forward and some stuff that loops backwards, it gets really complicated in your head really fast. Whereas if you just keep it all going the same direction. Yeah. Because otherwise you have parts that are going this way down a list, and then other parts that are going backwards up the list. And it's like, wait, what's it doing here?
Yeah, I can see the advantage of
So if you could just have it all, it's fine if they were all going backwards, but it's just you need everything going in the same direction, and it simplifies the code.
It's over. Yes, ma'am. Okay, where do they got him? Yeah. Okay. Jimmy with cheese. Jimmy classic with cheese. And smile when you say that. Okay, all righty.
Actually, the numbers are closer than they look like on the chart. The numbers themselves match really closely. It's the chart scaling. Excel doesn't really have any way to scale charts dynamically.
Okay.
So when I altered the scaling for XLB, it matched very close. Yeah. That's just setting them in and max that you on the window on the X and Y axis.
Yeah.
And when I change that, then it looks the same. That's the problem with charts. You can't just look at a chart. You gotta look at those scales and make sure. Yeah. Just like you look at something, you're like, wow, that thing took off. And you go, oh, well, look at the scaling. It's like, just like the other day, I was trying to get some better ideas on trends and price action. And so I had it on logarithmic on my stock charts, and then I forgot about that. I went back to it the next day. I went, what the hell is this? This thing's moving weird. Like, oh, right. So I'm not looking at the percentage. But I think both are very valuable charts to look at. It's good to switch between the two and get an idea, but just the same way that we don't just look at price or just percentage. We look at I wish I had a way I could overlay like a line of the logarithmic chart and then on top of the price action, the arithmetic, and have that in Candle. No stuff for that. I do see how that was pretty complicated. Yeah, the software would be. But I figured if I could match these big ones like Google and Microsoft, and Apple, and I did check close and it worked. The hell of an RG on that one. That took it way out there. Like, it's just looping around it like this. Crazy. They took it all the way down. Yeah. I don't know.
We haven't had a classic.
I have
week in a
not
long
had a
time.
classic. I haven't even had a faddish one in a long time either.
Yeah, but look, here's, now they tell us, oh, here's some cute ones.
Sandy, Utah. Sounds like real good marketing. What, I already hung up.
Gee. Oh, gee.
I'm sorry, what?
Did you know what that was?
Real good marketing? Is that what it was?
Oh, I don't know.
It just
I
doesn't
heard you say Sandy, and I know the answer.
Sandy, Utah, that's where real good marketing is based
Oh.
out of. That's always, that's one of the people I know in Sandy, Utah.
I was thinking like university.
Yeah.
There you go.
They don't have a rap here. What do you do? Hold it together, rap.
And they have this 9-piece nugget, but look how little they look. They look like balls. I mean, 9 of them, it might be the size of a,
3 McDonald's.
yeah, 3 strips maybe, but
Right.
Western Days from the 17th to the 21st.
What's that?
I'm gonna be at Western Days from the 17th
Oh,
to the
okay.
21st. Take care of good while I go. Gotta do some. The weather's a little nicer. Do some work. Try to finish parents.
Colorado.
This painting they couldn't do last time. It's so cold.
Mhm.
It was like a gel. You can't really paint with that. Didn't even spread it. Nope, nope. There it is.
But would you do that? What's the matter? You don't like cheese? You're a discriminator against cheese? Don't like people from Wisconsin? Is that what it is?
Wow. Oh, okay, good. Oh, cool. Well, Eddie, I was talking to somebody at the home office today. And she goes, "Yeah, so it's one part, I remember doing that." And they were, "Oh, so I just worked with Eddie Beverly Hills." Yeah. And he worked.
Is that his girlfriend, Randy? Yeah. I wonder if she knows he's dead.
And she said, well, no, she doesn't know, because she said, so I wonder what happened to him. We lost contact, and he used to be good friends with somebody else here in the office.
Yeah, he went out with some girl there, right? Maybe.
But I don't know, because she actually told me he was heartbroken because he had a girlfriend there, so I don't think it's her. It's somebody. No, yeah, because apparently, well, probably because he was saying, because she said something about, yeah, he was dating a girl here. and
Okay.
He was heartbroken
Okay.
because she ended up marrying somebody else.
Oh,
And maybe that's when he came back here.
that may have been it.
Wow.
The inside story comes out.
So yeah, I had forgotten.
Could have been it.
He died. Oh. Yeah, so I didn't tell her. She would have been very.
Well, you could make up a scandal if you wanted to.
She would have been very upset because she says, "Oh, he was such a nice guy. He was a good person." Yeah, right. know the whole story.
He may have been good behavior there. He was just, I think he promised he drank too much. It was part of his problem.
Mhm.
He is a drinker.
Well, he stopped drinking after a while, but that's
I
when.
know. Yeah, I think his dad told me his dad came in.
The construction business.
Yeah,
That's when
you know,
it started, that's when it
He's
started
been
working.
drinking. He's so much better now. Yeah, his dad was
Yeah, because he
happy when
started that
quit
construction
drinking.
business, I think it was just doing basic roofing, and then
Yeah,
he stopped drinking, and then all of a sudden he started getting all kinds of jobs and stuff. And well, people are a lot more likely to hire you to do construction when you're drunk. Nobody wants you drunk up on the roof.
Nobody's been here.
funny how I stumbled onto this thing where I was actually looking into group theory as a way to identify chart patterns, which led me back to Einstein, which led me to this.
There you go. You never know, huh?
Yeah. Group theory is really neat. There's this one group that John Conway called the monster.
Okay.
Because it's so big. Group theory is really just about symmetries. And you talk about all the ways you can, that something is symmetric, for instance, like a hexagon or snowflake. Okay. And the ways that you can rotate that it looks that it'll always look the same. And then that group, whatever label that group gets, is an abstraction of all of those symmetries.
Okay.
Just in the same way that 3 doesn't describe 3 specific things, it describes 3 of anything.
Okay.
You know, so it's just an extension kind of numbers into symmetries. But there's this one group that I forget how many dimensions it uses, or spatial dimensions it takes, and it's actually necessary for this proof that deals with quantum physics. But John Conway, the guy who looked at, you know, that Game of Life, not the board game, but the one on the computer that has little things that move around, and they, you know, it looks like you basically set up an initial condition and let it run, and then it can turn into, yeah, and it runs like living simulations on a very basic level. But yeah, I came up with that. He named this group the monster because he said when he started figuring out how big it was, how many symmetries there were to this group, he said if you took every atom in the universe and then imagined that inside of each of those atoms was another universe, and inside of each of the atoms inside of that universe was another universe, and you went down like that 100 levels on each one, you're starting to approach the number of symmetries we're talking about. So he called it the monster. And it's still not anywhere even close to the record for being one of the biggest numbers used in a proof. It's like way down the list of big numbers that we use for. We don't even have to come up with a new kind of notation for it. But yeah, just. Yeah, that one that I told you about, Graham's number. That number is so big that the monster, in comparison, it's kind of like trying to compare 1 to, I don't know, quintillion to the quintillion to the quintillion to the quintillion to the quintillion power. It's like just so completely outside of the realm of anything.
Wow.
Talk about numbers so big that we don't have the physical capability to compute them. Like, I mean, you could if you could build a big enough computer, but we don't have enough. There's not enough memory worldwide to store the thing. Now you can store it in. You can write it down on a piece of paper with very specialized notation. It is a really high level abstraction. But if you wanted to write it out decimalized, couldn't do it. You'd have to build a universe specifically designed to contain a number where every subatomic particle of the universe was a bit to hold a number. And it'd have to be significantly bigger than the one we live in, or at least the observable part. Several orders of magnitude larger. It's kind of hard to imagine now.
Beyond our imagination, beyond the real human.
Yeah, I mean, even the people like Graham, who came up with that number, he says, I don't know what it is. You know, I don't really understand what it is. It's just the upper limit to this problem. He says, I can tell you what the last digit is. It's 7. He says, we can calculate it that way. It's just the same way you calculate other things. You know, you go digit by digit. It says people have calculated the last 14 digits just for the fun of it, but just to get an idea. But you know, you. But even if you did have the space to store it, the universe isn't old enough to run the simulation to write it out. If you were writing, you said, if you wrote one digit every femtosecond, which is smaller than nanosecond, we're talking about a whole order of magnitude lower than nanoseconds. But if you wrote every digit out that fast, the universe hasn't been around long enough. If you started at the very first second or femtosecond of the universe, it hasn't been around long enough to finish writing it. Kind of hard to wrap your brain around. And I think trying to explain that to hunter gatherers, which only needed counting on fingers to keep track of things. Think about how many levels of abstraction we've done since then to be able to even talk about things.
Come a long way, but way longer to go, probably.
More has happened in the last 12,000 years than in the last 2 million before.
That is clearly engaged a lot of the tech stocks, but particularly to the more speculative value tech stocks. That is big tech. Amazon, Facebook, Google, Apple are not speculative value, but then that's part of it. The other one is we are moving from a kind of a cyclical recovery, cyclical play. Q2 is going to be the fastest GDP growth quarter, and now we're beyond that. We're Q3, and if you start looking ahead to 2022 and 2023, and you like the secular growth companies because they grow materially faster than the time, very faster than the secular growth company.
That sensitivity thing I said is a proprietary thing from Julius
Oh,
as well, that he developed with them for their software. But they said, we don't know how it works. They said, but you can think of it in terms of the lower the sensitivity is equivalent to a lower moving average and a higher sensitivity, which is kind of what I had figured from based on what I was doing. So really what I was trying to do was dial it in to about the somewhere between the 3 and 5 range of sensitivity that Optima has, because they said that's really where they've seen the best. Because otherwise if you have it at 1, it's too sensitive and you get a jittery chart where it's all over the place. But if you go to 7, it gets so smoothed out that it's like lagging so far behind which is fine if you were using a daily chart to get an idea of a longer term trade. Just on a shorter time scale, but you were going to trade the thing longer. You just wanted a finer definition, but that's how you would use it. But that's not what we're using it for anyway. So it's okay to know those things. So just they said, yeah, you can ask him, but he may not tell you. But I don't really need to ask him. They confirmed what I thought it was. He's not going to give up the exact formulas anyways, so that's not, and I don't expect him to. I'm glad I saved, there were when we started looking at RRGs years and years ago, I saved posts that people were trying to backwards engineer this thing, and they had different ideas. None of them were quite right, but they kind of led me in a general direction that was helpful. But I'm glad I saved them because those posts have been taken down off of the sites. Because every request of Juliet Stickepner, this post has been removed. So I thought, yeah, they were getting close. So I'm not going to post anything about what I figured out.
Up the street, huh?
But yeah, I think I'm closer than anything I ever found anyone else online. There was one person that said they got kind of close and they were showing, but they had to brute force the calculations every time. So it only worked for one stock, and then they'd have to alter the parameters for the next one and alter for the next one. I've gotten it to a point where with 2 variables that can be adjusted, it works. And they don't have to be adjusted per stock. One year. So it will work.
Views are coming back.
That's going to happen. What we need to know is how which companies will hit the hardest by a rubber frame. Here's how. Multinational companies will pay $150 billion a year more in taxes every year under the new agreement for this global minimum tax. 130 countries actually signed up for the plan. That's a lot more than expected. It's scheduled to take effect in 2023. It has 2 basic parts. First, is a new system of taxing companies based on where they earn their sales and profits, so where their customers are, rather than their physical operation or their headquarters. It would hit companies with 20 billion euros or more in sales a year and pre-tax profit margins of at least 10%. Now, this is aimed at the big tech companies, which have for years come under fire for funneling profits to low tax havens like Ireland. But it would also affect big pharma, biotech, luxury goods, and some consumer brands. A special Amazon provision ensures that Amazon still gets taxed even if its margins fall below that 10% threshold. Then the second piece is this global minimum tax of 15%. The Biden administration is saying a 15% floor would end this global rate for the bottom in corporate tax rate. It is also critical to Biden's plan to increase the U.S. corporate tax rate that would reduce the incentive to move jobs and income offshore. Now, 9 countries so far have not agreed to this plan, including, and very importantly, Ireland, Hungary, and several Caribbean nations. Negotiators hope to reach a final deal in October, and it still has to go through Congress. Ireland's probably the interesting one to watch. Robert, thank you, Robert Frank. Up next on Power Lunch's record-breaking new cyber attacks, even bigger than the last one, but the cyber stocks are not outperforming this year. We'll tell you why after this. Hey, Billy, I did a wireless plan for my business, but all my employees need something different.
Oh, we can help with that. Okay, imagine you Rob. He's on the scene and the plan with a full hotspot. We cut to downtown. Your sales rep Lisa has business supply, like ASAP.
The big plan is my plan.
Yeah, I should have just let it back.
With AT&T Business, it's the best plan for each employee and only pay for this thing.
Had enough? Here, new aspect for my friend. Gold inspection strip. Reduces inflammation, then gold. Don't think so too soon.
Paying to the ass.
Only 6% of U.S. personal businesses have a black owner. That needs to change. So I did something. I created a Black Business Accelerator at Amazon. And now we have a program that's dedicated to making tomorrow a better day for Black businesses. I am Tiffany, and this is just the beginning.
If you wake up thinking about the market and want to make the right moves fast, get Decision Tech from Fidelity. You'll get proactive alerts from market events before they happen, and insights on every buy and sell decision. With zero commission online U.S. stock and ETF trades. For smarter trading decisions, Decision Tech from Fidelity.
Digital transformation has failed to take off because it hasn't removed the endless working world. Unleash your potential. Heading into retirement, you want to follow your passion. Bright House Smart Care is a high-performance insurance and long-term care product. Protect your family while providing long-term care coverage should you get talk to your advisor. Right.
Championship on NBC and Go. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Power Lunch. Along with Kelly Evans, I'm Tyler Matheson. Glad you could join us. Hope you're staying cool on this very hot day here in the East. Topping the hour, Revil strikes again. That's the Russian-linked gang. It's now behind the single biggest ransomware attack of all time. It is the U.S. losing the cyber war. And with all of the focus on cybersecurity, why are key stocks in the sector lagging the market?
Yeah, we'll explain. Plus, the Dow dropping sharply midday, where it's currently down around 300-400 points, but a top strategist says the next big catch-up trend is emerging. He'll tell us how investors can profit.
And he's back. Tillman Fertitta on the roaring recovery. Which parts of the economy are red hot and what still concerns him? We'll talk about all that and more as Power Lunch starts right now.
And as we mentioned, the Dow is down more than 400 points at the session lows. We're coming back off of that somewhere. We're down 282. We were actually positive at the highs of the session by just a little bit, but we are dragged down today by JP Morgan. Goldman Sachs says that 10-year yield just keeps slipping. Chevron, too, its energy is having the worst session of any of the major industries. It's a wild day for oil, and let's check in on prices there, which are now retreating after touching a 6-year high. All of this after OPEC Plus failing to reach a deal. We've got WTI crude down 2%, still over 73 a barrel, though. And we're going to hear from the Saudi energy minister later in the show. Let's also check out ride-hailing company Didi, tumbling after Chinese regulators announcing cybersecurity review just days after it went public. Didi down 20% right now. It's just over $12. And the Pentagon canceling that
ransomware attack, the biggest, presumably on record, at least 1,500 businesses have been compromised, and this comes just weeks after the Geneva summit where the president and Putin discussed this very issue. We have the story covered on many fronts. Eamon Javers with the latest on the attack. Former hacker Kevin Mitnick will survey the damage and tell us what happens next. And an analyst will reveal the cyber stocks worth owning right now. Eamon, though, we begin with you. Take it away. Yeah, Tyler, we got reaction just within the past couple of minutes from the White House, where Press Secretary Jen Psaki said that the United States is having high-level conversations with the Russians on this issue. And she also rattled the U.S. saber a little bit, suggesting that the United States reserves the right to respond depending on who the U.S. determines is responsible for this latest hack attack.
We have undertaken expert-level talks that are continuing, and we expect to have another meeting next week focused on ransomware attacks. And I will just reiterate a message that these officials are sending. As the president made clear to President Putin when they met, if the Russian government cannot or will not take action against criminal actors residing in Russia, we will take action or reserve the right to take action.
Here's what we know from the company Testia itself that was impacted here. They say we're just about 2 hours now from getting some of the servers back up and running. They say that will be expected to happen between 4 and 7 p.m. tonight. They're also saying that they're going to have an on-premises patch up in about 24 hours. And they're saying right now up to 60 customers have been directly impacted here. But more broadly, that has filtered out to a wider universe of 1,500 businesses overall that have been impacted by this. Tyler, I can tell you that I've been talking to some cybersecurity experts over the past 24 hours who say they think the hackers might be a little bit desperate here for two reasons. One is they say they've already lowered the demand. They say that the demand initially was 70 million. Now the hackers are saying, well, we'll take 50. So that indicates some sense of desperation to get this done with. And also this idea that when you've got 1,500 businesses that are impacted, the hackers are now in a situation where they've got to have simultaneous negotiations with all of those businesses about how to pay the ransom for each individual one. Hackers generally are not prepared to do that. They would like to negotiate just with one big entity that's going to write them a check or send them some Bitcoin really fast, rather than having to deal with all these little entities as the case here. So it might be the case, suggest some experts to me, that these guys are a little overwhelmed by what they've bitten off here, doing all this stuff. Would the big negotiating counterparty be Cassia, presumably? Presumably, right. But people I've talked to said there's no indication here that Cassia is going to pay that ransom, and we don't have any comment from the company about that. So we just don't know what their strategy is. Are they trying to unlock everybody individually, or do something to break this, or have backups where they can get everybody back up and running as quickly as possible? Or are they going to negotiate down that 70, now 50, maybe they can get them even lower and just pay? All right, well, something the government doesn't, U.S. government doesn't want those businesses to do, and we'll talk about that and more with our next guest. Thanks, Eamon. So will these attacks get worse and more damaging, broader, bigger? Our next guest is Kevin Mitnick, a former professional hacker, but not just any hacker. He made the FBI's 10 most wanted list, twice convicted and was jailed for cybercrime. But now he's gone from the dark side to helping companies combat attacks. He's currently the CEO of cybersecurity consulting firm Mitnick Security. Kevin, welcome back. We are delighted to have you with us. Explain to those who haven't been following this story over the weekend what went on here, why Cassia is at the center, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, why they are at the center of it, and why it has metastasized as broadly as it has.
Well, first of all, Rebel is a ransomware group, and they have affiliates. So this is called ransomware as a service. What that means is they're not actually deploying the malicious code. It's these affiliates, these people that are using this ransomware as a service platform. And what they did is one of these affiliates found on the authentication bypass. What that means is they found a vulnerability in Kaseya's platform that allowed them to log in without having any credentials. And then they did a super sophisticated attack where they were able to interfere with the update process. So during the update process, it would actually deploy the malicious code, which turned out to be the ransomware. When I was reading about this earlier today, it was super sophisticated. This isn't the type of stuff that we remember when your computer would be locked and you have to pay $300 to $400 a Bitcoin to get this back. This is a sophisticated tradecraft. This is almost the level of nation state, but it could be these Russian gangs. Don't forget, these gangs are making tens of millions of dollars when they're compromising these victims and they're actually paying out these ransoms. So they could hire the best security researchers. Maybe they're doing it at shell companies. So the researchers don't even realize they're working for the bad guys. And when they develop these tools, like what we call zero-day exploit, the zero-day exploit is a security hole, for example, in a product that the manufacturer doesn't know about, so they can patch it. Well, in this particular case, the bad actors use the zero-day exploit to deploy a fake update. And what this update did is it deployed the ransomware in these Kaseya devices. And this was actually pushed down to the customers, because their customers were MSPs. And it was actually pushed down to those customers. And I believe earlier on the show, you mentioned about 1,500. That's an amplification attack. Because what these bad actors are doing is rather than targeting one company at a time, they're targeting MSPs, because now those MSPs have customers, and so it amplifies the attack, and they're able to monetize this malware in a more expedient way.
MSP is what again?
Managed service provider.
Managed service provider. So you say Rebel, I said Rebel. I'm not sure which is more appropriate here. I'm going to take your word that the proper way to pronounce it is Rebel, but it feels pretty Rebel to me. You said this is a super sophisticated attack. That's my question. What makes it so super sophisticated? And we are calling it the largest such attack of its kind. What makes it the largest? Is it that metastasis out over maybe 1,500 companies? Is it the size of the ransom? What is it? What makes it so big in scale?
It was the tradecraft they used to evade any antivirus tools, the tradecraft that they found the zero-day exploit to actually carry out this attack. It was more of the technical under the hood of how it was working was, the super sophisticated part of this. The ransom going up, I think that's pretty much what we're seeing as these ransomware attacks grow. We're seeing the numbers rise. And it's already been common knowledge that these bad actors are going after MSPs. That's nothing new. So the amounts rising is not really interesting. It's really how they went about deploying the malware.
Are we losing the cyber war?
Well, it looks like the bad actors are ahead. I mean, unfortunately, and it's because a lot of companies think, well, if we enable very strong passwords or we, add two-factor authentication, that's really going to stop ransomware attacks. Now, of course, that's a good thing to do, but the bad guys aren't going through the front door. They're going through the back door. They're finding vulnerabilities like they did in this Kaseya appliance and getting in that way to deploy the malicious code. So companies have to do much better at protecting their organization. Right. And of course, a lot of this stuff is where it's encrypting their files. So what businesses ought to do is look for appliances that create like a logical air gap. Because a lot of these backups, in a business environment are done in such a way if a bad actor breaks into your company, they're able to manipulate and damage those backups.
All right, let's go to quick questions, quick answers, Kelly.
Well, Kevin, I'm just thinking through this. A lot of the affected businesses, I mean, yes, there's Swedish grocery stores and all that kind of thing, but we're also talking about probably dentist office, accountant offices. These are not people with sophisticated, setups. And even the third-party vendors whose software they're using, it's a question of whether it's the vendor that needs to have better systems. Obviously, they do, or the clients themselves and the back and forth. My real question is this. Is there any way to really combat these ransomware attacks other than the suggestion, which some have come forward with, which is to literally ban cryptocurrency? Is there any other way to stop these attacks, Kevin, from happening?
It's quite difficult. What companies need to do is secure their infrastructure. But the first thing I would do as a business owner is get cyber insurance. So that way, if something bad happens, I'm covered. But it's really about maturing your security program and looking at everything inside the business to reduce that attack surface. What I truly believe in is test, meaning testing your company to see if you're vulnerable by doing penetration testing and red teaming. So test harden, which means reduce that attack surface, which means look at all the devices in your company and configure those devices in such a way that it reduces the opportunity for a bad actor to attack. And then, of course, train your users on, for example, how not to fall for a phishing attack, because that's usually the way ransomware gets it.
Quickly, just before we close, White House says U.S. policy remains the company should not pay ransomware demands. Cyber attack. Agree, disagree?
That's easy to say for the government, and I understand that the U.S. Treasury, if there's a sanctioned hacker, that's a problem. But as a business owner, I want to get up and running. If I'm down because all my files are encrypted, I could go out of business. So as a business owner, I might be forced to make very uncomfortable decisions about paying these bad actors, so I could get back up and running.
Kevin, thank you very much. Kevin Mitnick, cybersecurity expert. Thank you again.
When it comes to cyber, it turns out not all the stocks in the sector are created equal. Over the past month, Check Point and F5 have underperformed the market with all of these ransomware attacks going on. CrowdStrike and Cloudflare have outperformed. Our next guest just initiated coverage of the whole sector, and he has a list of the stocks worth owning. Let's bring in Shaul Eyal. He is the analyst at Cowen. I hope I pronounced that right, Shaul. Welcome to you. What is the main thing you're looking for in picking which names in the cybersecurity space you want exposure to right now?
One of the things which is being out there, and Kevin addressed some of that, is that shifting infrastructure from on-premise to off-premise. And I think in that respect, you mentioned CrowdStrike, you mentioned Cloudflare. Both these names have been born in the cloud. They provide a great cloud infrastructure. And in that respect, we are seeing them trading at outperformance level nowadays. They do provide some of the solutions that potentially could have prevented in some sort of way some of the attacks that we have been seeing over the past few months now. And also, you mentioned Check Point, you mentioned F5. These are companies that predominantly address on-premise infrastructure, even though they have started to provide some cloud solutions. So we are seeing those shifts in appetite actually to open more of the SaaS cloud security-driven names.
Excuse me, Michelle, let me make sure I got this right. So you want the names that are in the cloud, or you want the names that are doing on-premise?
So we have a preference towards names that are predominantly geared towards the cloud. That's number one. But at the same time, there's another group of hybrid providers. Those companies that do provide both on-premise with off-premise cloud solutions. In that respect, Fortinet is another topic on which we published quite recently, and also is making all the historical highs on a daily basis.
Why do you think it is? I mean, this could be the kind of environment where cybersecurity names are the next great secular growth story and investment. Why is it that some of them have just had a difficult time outperforming the market? Is it because they now have to invest so much to keep up with the hackers and make sure that they are on the cutting edge? Does that pressure their earnings? Why is it that they just, a lot of these names struggle even to match the market?
So I think what we have to compare here is go back to 2020 when they took Corona and aftermath. The cybersecurity as a whole traded up about 100%. What we are seeing is a combination of profit taking on the one hand, but so investors that are taking a longer towards the cloud-related name and seeing investments that go into that, they are willing for the time being to let go of some current and near-term profitability for the sake of top line and revenue acceleration as well as billing acceleration. So we have been seeing that. Those companies' business models typically scale within a matter of 4 years. To run up CrowdStrike. CrowdStrike is about to triple its ARR from $1 billion to $3 billion over the course of the next 2 years. Investors are willing to make that current investment and see the profitability and the cash flow leverage coming down the road.
All right. Shaul, thank you very much for joining us, talking through some of the names in this universe as more and more investors are turned on to this. We appreciate it.
Phil, I'm interested, after what Kevin said, to talk a little bit about the insurance companies that are in this business.
Yes.
Because he said your best defense is a good insurance policy. There have got to be plenty of companies that are ramping up that business and it will charge more.
Prices are up. Yeah. If you wouldn't want this coverage right now, think of the losses.
Yes.
These payouts that are office, you could lose your entire business. Just a number like 20 or 50% of companies, small companies that have cyber attack can barely even survive them. There were dentist offices hit a few years ago. Why a cyber attack? Why going to the dentist office? But they are spending the next month just trying to get their offices reopened and access their patient records. So the other issue is there's so many different kinds of cyber liability coverage. People might look and say, great, I just have to check a box.
And the cyber criminal may know that your coverage, or most small business stores may top out at $1 million, so they'll set their ransomware request at $950,000 or $1 million.
But it's interesting he thought that could play such a role, because even when they can chase down and maybe help even sort of people to unlock the situation, I mean, this is not, you can't really, it needs to be a much bigger, more top level solution.
Top level and multi-front.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, coming up, from tech to healthcare to banking we go. Deutsche Bank reveals its list of the single best investment ideas for the next 12 months. We will bring them to you later. Despite OPEC's family feud, energy is still a favorite sector of one of our next guests. He explains why and the best ways to play it. And we're going to do a quick break. A look at some of the stocks hitting 52-week highs, even as the broader market pulls back.
I look for the Wellhead Safety Seal as my favorite place. It needs health and safety measures have met rigorous scientific standards. So look for the Well Seal.
Look for the Well Health Safety Seal outside and feel more confident going inside.
Taco night is hard for me to plan for, but the fried pizza means heartburn you didn't expect. This Zantac 360 degrees contains the #1 doctor recommended medicine approved to both prevent and relieve heartburn. It works in as little as 15 minutes. This Zantac 360. Hiring?
ZipRecruiter finds us the best people for the job. I've hired everyone from supervisors to field scientists. With ZipRecruiter, we get hiring results.
Try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/index. The record keeps taking a coast to coast. When does this end?
They brought me data in. This is what I can make the label show up.
Okay, good. Good deal.
I never figured out how to program it. So this, you can change the sensitivity. So I've got it set 15 right now. But if you wanted to put, what would be equivalent to like the low sensitivity on Optima, like a 3, and it would be more. Yeah. Put it at 30, and you very smooth outline. 40. But I think 15 is a good one to stay at, because that equates to a 14-day moving average, which is what the standard pretty much is. Okay. Which is, and that's how it matches. I got it to match the others. So. Now I won't be able to do that thing where we scrub through it, where you can see the where you can see where you can go back in time and see how they move and stuff like that, but we don't really use any of that stuff anyway. So. I mean, we could design a special program to do that if we really needed that.
Right.
I don't know why it would. It's not, it's not something good. But it worked.
Good.
I never thought I'd be able to crack the RG. I thought that was gonna be somewhere I could leave mine.
And building subscribers, a CNBC exclusive tomorrow. Watch my podcast.
Home office is gonna get a hurricane. Hurricane Elsa. Oh, no, it says that Hurricane Elba. Yeah, Hurricane Elba is gonna hit. Yeah, they're not, the people at home office, they're worried. If it was Elsa, they wouldn't have worried so much, but now they know it's gonna be Elba. She's gonna be kicking asses and taking names in home office. Yeah.
Is somebody on the screen marked Ronald? Hello? Hello?